Hello, my name is Paul and welcome back to another one of my productivity training videos. In this video, I'm sharing 9 tips to help you save time on email. Email, some of us love it, some of us absolutely hate it. For some people, email is an absolute nightmare and a real chore to deal with. Usually I find this is due to a combination of, number one, being overwhelmed by the amount of email that you receive, and number 2, having or not having clear processes and systems that actually help you to stay on top of your email. Personally, and fortunately, I don't mind dealing with email, and I think it's mainly because I have a good system in place that helps me to keep on top of all my email. So in this video, I'd like to share some email best practices that have helped me keep on top of my email. If you have any questions at the end of this video, please leave me a comment below, and if you have any other tips that I haven't included, stuff that works really well for you, please share those below as well. So if you're someone that is drowning in email, keep watching, and I'm sure this video will help you out. And by the way, it doesn't matter what email client you use. I'm going to show you a little bit of how I use Apple Mail. But if you use Gmail, Outlook, they all have pros and cons. In this video, I'm going to share some of the principles behind how to manage email, and I'm going to mention some of the other tools that you can plug in with these different services, but the actual app that you use doesn't really matter so much. So the first thing I want to discuss, the first tip, is when do you deal with email, and that you should actually be scheduling time for it. So when should you do email? Some people say that you should do email first thing. Others say that you should do an important task first and leave email to later in the day. The truth is there really is no right answer. We all have different work situations and different preferences, so it really is up to you. Personally, I deal with my email first thing because being in New Zealand and most of my clients are in the United States, when I wake up in the morning, the US is already halfway through their day, so I like to check my email first thing. I want to see if there's any important updates or issues that clients need help with. I want to kind of get to those first. And also personally, I just kind of like starting the day by emptying my inbox. But whatever you decide, I do recommend blocking out time to on your calendar to actually deal with your email. I usually take about an hour to do this in the morning to clear my inbox and to follow up on leads that I need to chase as well. So email for me is not just about clearing my inbox, it's also actually doing my email outreach as well. But setting aside the time like this helps me to clearly dedicate some time to email and get through my inbox. And then when I'm done, I can kind of move past that. I don't have to be kind of checking it all day. I've kind of given it its dedicated time, and then I can move on to do some actual work. I do often still check it during pockets of free time during the day, but that hour in the morning is just that first go at clearing my inbox. And I find putting it on the calendar is important so that I actually turn up and I do it, and I don't get booked by clients at that time. I actually, I'm leaving enough time to clear my inbox. So my second tip is around how to deal with email overwhelm. Email overwhelm is probably the most common issue that I see among knowledge workers. To deal with email overwhelm, there's kind of 2 options that we've got. You can either reduce the amount of email that you're receiving, kind of dealing with the problem at the source, or number 2 is you can find a way to filter through your email to get to the most important messages. So the first one, so reducing the volume of your email. You can do this by maybe unsubscribing from newsletters or those alert emails you get from different services that you're signed up to, or by trying to put alternatives in place of email. So maybe if you get a lot of customer service tickets or requests for your business, maybe you can set up an FAQ on your website or a knowledge base that helps people to answer questions so they don't have to email you. So reducing email is ideal, but obviously it's not always possible. So then we can try and filter our email and get to the most important messages. And by far, the number 1 tool I recommend for this is SaneBox. This is the number 1 service I recommend because when you turn it on, if you're drowning in email, what SaneBox does is it sorts through your email, and stuff that it decides is important, it stays in the inbox. But then stuff that's not important, stuff that just kind of falls into that category of, good to know information, it puts into a folder called Sane Later. And so you can check on that folder later, but the point is it really just helps you to get to the important stuff really quickly. And I've said this before in other videos about SaneBox, but it really is incredibly smart. It has an amazing ability to decide what's important and what's not. I don't know how it works, but it really understands my email. It's kind of like having your own assistant just sorting through your email. And if it does get it wrong, which it can do, you can just drag an email from one folder to another, and you kind of train SaneBox so that it doesn't make the same mistake again in the future. My third tip is to get tasks out of your email. So repeat after me. Your inbox is not a task list. If you need to take future action on an email, maybe it's even just a big reply, or you need to take some action, like maybe you're writing a proposal, or you need to do something as a result of that email, you really should be putting a task into your task manager, whether that's, Asana, Todoist, Basecamp. The point is, don't leave it in your inbox, because otherwise your inbox becomes a big long list of things to do. So I use Asana, which means I can forward emails to an address, a special email address, and that will add the email as a note to a task and put that on my task list. If you use Asana, there are also Gmail and Outlook extensions that you can use to easily add tasks to Asana, and most to-do list managers come with some kind of email integration. The point is that email is a communication tool, and it really is not ideal for task management. And so by adding emails to a task list, you can clear it out of your inbox and schedule a time to come back to it later, and you can manage it alongside all of the other work that you're doing. And when you've sorted the message into your task list, the final thing you should be doing is archiving the message to clear it out of your inbox. And that's something I'm going to come back to later as well. So my fourth tip is around how to deal with spam and unwanted emails. Unfortunately, in this day and age, it is impossible to avoid spam. By which I mean actual spam, that usually providers like Gmail are pretty good at filtering out by now, but also spam just in the form of unsolicited emails that you get from salespeople trying to sell you stuff. I will often get into my inbox and I see a lazy salesperson has just put me on some autoresponder and they're trying to reach out to me or sell something to me. And I can tell it's automated because I can see the little unsubscribe link in the email. And so the options here are either you can manually unsubscribe from that. This is okay, but sometimes those unsubscribed forms, there's like checkboxes and stuff you have to complete or untick to unsubscribe, or you have to put in your email again to unsubscribe. And actually it can even open you up to future spam because you're kind of confirming your email as part of that process. It's even like a spam tactic. So manually unsubscribing is possible, not really ideal. Again, coming back to SaneBox, they actually have a great option for this. They have the Sane black hole. So if you drag an email into the Sane black hole folder, it basically just puts emails from that sender straight into the trash. So you don't have to worry about unsubscribe forms or blocking the contact or anything like that. That stuff just goes straight to the trash, which is real nice. My fifth tip is don't forget to archive your email. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier. This is a simple but often overlooked tip. Not a lot of people do this, or people often just forget. So once you've finished with an email, maybe you've sent your response, or you've put a task on your task list for later, maybe you've just read the email and there's nothing to do. Whenever you're now done with that email, you should archive it. And I can hear you asking me, I can hear you shouting at the screen, but what if it's like an ongoing conversation? It's not done. It doesn't matter. Follow my advice. Just archive it. And I will tell you how to deal with follow-ups in the next tip. But when you do this, it really starts to change how you view your inbox. Your inbox goes from being a place where all emails live, just it's a big long list, to then being actually just a list of recently received emails that you haven't yet triaged. And it's far less overwhelming. Because when you get to your inbox, it's not a giant list. It's just like maybe a dozen or so messages that you've recently received. So it's a lot more just manageable as well. So my sixth tip, how do you deal with follow-up? How do you follow up with those important or ongoing conversations? So maybe, you've replied to a message, but you want to make sure you receive a response. You followed my previous advice. You've archived the conversation, even though the conversation is still going on. So there's a couple of tools that can help with this. A Mail Butler, which is available as an Apple Mail or Gmail extension. They have an option to schedule a follow-up task on an email. And this basically puts a task on your to-do list. This is okay, but it does move the process of following up into your task list. SaneBox, on the other hand, have a few really nice features that are even better. Number one is when you send the email, you can CC like 1 week at sanebox.com, and if you don't receive a reply in 1 week, SaneBox will then send you a reminder, or it resurfaces the email. The other thing that SaneBox does is it has a folder called Sane No Replies, and if you click on this folder, you can easily find messages that you haven't received a reply to. So it does make following up, I think, a little bit easier. My seventh tip is to use templates to speed up your responses. So this video wouldn't be complete without talking about templates. My goal with email is to try and answer as many emails as I can with a template. Naturally, this is impossible, but I think it's a nice goal to aim for. Again, a few tools that have helped with this. Number one, Text Expander, which I've talked about before. Love Text Expander for speeding up my typing. And yeah, one of those use cases is email templates. The really nice thing about Text Expander is it does work everywhere, so not just in email, but anywhere I can type text, I can use it to shoot out links or little bits of shorthand and personal information. Mail Butler as well have some options to save templates into your composer, so you can quickly access those templates as well. However, this does only work on the desktop, and if you're writing emails on your phone, you won't always have access to Mail Butler and those templates, so I do prefer Text Expander for that reason. But the key takeaway here is that if you find yourself sending the same messages again and again, save them as a template, and that means you don't have to be copying and pasting or going back to your sent items to find those emails that you want to reuse. Okay, so my 8th tip is that folders are less important than you think. For some reason, a lot of people still use folders. They feel that the path to better email management is to put emails into folders. And the funny thing is that when you actually go to find an email later, more often than not, you search for it. You don't actually go digging through folders. I think folders can be useful if you have some email rules that help you to sort the emails. So for example, when a subscriber of mine, I'm talking about an email subscriber, responds to one of my newsletters, these are automatically sent to a reply folder. And that's pretty easy to set up with an email rule because I can look for the footer content of my email newsletter. Again, services like SaneBox make this really easy. It comes with loads of optional folders that you can turn on. So we talked about the Sane Later folder where all that kind of less important stuff is put into. They have a folder called Sane News. So this is a bit like Gmail's promotions tab, but news and newsletters and promotions go into the news folder. You've got things like Sane CC, so emails that you've CC'd go in here. So if the sender is using the CC field correctly, these are going to be the emails that fall into that category of just, good to know. There's the Sane No Replies folder, like we talked about, these emails that you haven't received replies to. And there's a bunch of snooze folders like Sane Tomorrow or Sane Next Week, where if you drag emails into these folders, these actually are more functional, and SaneBox will snooze them and remind you about those emails later. And so finally, my 9th tip actually on that topic is to not snooze too much. So tools, like SaneBox, Mail Butler, Boomerang for Gmail, they do have these snoozing capabilities, which can be a good way to postpone an email instead, so that you can deal with it later. And so it's a nice way to get stuff off your plate until a better time, but you should proceed with caution. I think the danger you can get into with snoozing is you end up in like a snooze cycle where you keep pushing messages off and you never actually deal with them. It really just only adds to the email overwhelm issue. So snoozing should be used to postpone a message until you're ready to deal with it, but not as a way to just avoid dealing with the message. So do be careful with snoozing. So that's it. That's my list of 9 tips to help you save time with email. If you have any questions, please leave me a comment below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.